copies have been made of that, those need to be destroyed.
Okay.
Okay? If they get disclosed, that is going to put me in a situation where I will have to withdraw from the case.
Okay.
If you disclose that information in any way, all of it needs to be destroyed now. But if you disclose it in any way, it's going to put me in a position where I will have to withdraw from the case. If you all choose to go on the internet and try to publicize this stuff, that's going to create real problems.
Okay.
You can't do it, is what I'm telling you. You cannot do it. I will have to move to withdraw from the case.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So make sure everybody's aware of that. Okay. If any of that...
This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa through the police body cam. Defense attorney Brad Haywood, you are under the microscope. In this podcast, what we're going to investigate is 3 questions. Did the police department cut, edit, and mute police body cams before uploading them to the police department server, evidence.com? Is the prosecutor Sarah Sami, and prosecutor Stephanie Buck, are they aware that the police department cut, edited, and muted body cam before uploading them to the server? And they're covering up for their police officers. Is defense attorney Brad Haywood covering up for the police department by not pursuing the missing police body cams? In this podcast, we're going to attempt to answer those 3 questions. We're going to take you through the body cams that we have to the scene, and we're going to find out if those body cams are cut. We're going to take you into the courthouse through the transcript, and we're going to hear what they're saying in court. And we're going to get to the bottom of what the police department did in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case.
If any of that is posted anywhere on the internet, we're going to have problems. Whatever copies have been made of that, those need to be destroyed.
Okay.
Okay? If they get disclosed, that is going to put me in a situation where I will have to withdraw from the case.
Okay.
If you disclose that information in any way, all of it needs to be destroyed now. But if you disclose it in any way, it's going to put me in a position where I will have to withdraw from the case. If you all choose to go on the internet and try to publicize this stuff, that's going to create real problems.
Okay.
You can't do it, is what I'm telling you. You cannot do it. I will have to move to withdraw from the case.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So make sure everybody's aware of that. Okay. If any of that is posted anywhere on the internet, we're going to have problems. Whatever copies have been made of that, those need to be destroyed.
Okay.
Okay? If they get disclosed, that is going to put me in a situation where I will have to withdraw from the case.
Okay.
If you
This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa through the police body cam. Defense attorney Brad Haywood, you are under the microscope. Now, we're going to take a deep dive into the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case, and we're going to investigate on this podcast what is going on with the police body cams in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. And the reason this is relevant, it's relevant to find out, when you find out that there are body cams that are edited by the police department, edited, cut, and muted before it's uploaded to the police department server, this is relevant because you're looking at a case in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case where the most important piece of evidence is the dash camera. Mustafa Al-Jazairi has a dash camera in his vehicle. Well, today, the Commonwealth attorney tells you the dash camera does not have audio. The Commonwealth attorney tells you that the dash camera cuts off before impact. Wait a minute. How does a dash camera not have audio? How does a dash camera cut before impact? And that's what they have in the server. Commonwealth Amy Ashworth sealed off this case. If you put in a FOIA, your FOIA is going to get denied. You can't request the body cam. You can't request the dash camera. You can't request any piece of evidence in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. Now, unfortunately for Commonwealth Amy Ashworth, we've managed to enter the server for the police department, evidence.com. And I have the whole entire file. Whatever they have in the server, I have it. And what they have in the server is a cut and muted dash camera. A dash camera that does not have audio. A dash camera that is cut before impact. As a matter of fact, there are 17 frames missing from the camera facing inside the vehicle. Now, when we go through the police body cams to find out what happened to this dash camera, this case gets even more disturbing. So we're going to take you through two specific body cams where clearly it shows that the police department spliced this body cam into two body cam. It's essentially one body cam, but this body cam has been spliced by the police department before it was uploaded to the server, the police department server. And there are 17 minutes missing surrounding the officer that handled Mustafa's dash camera on the scene. Now, we're going to take you through that body cam, and then we're going to go through the transcript inside the courtroom and find out what they're saying in court about the missing body cam, what the prosecutor is saying about the missing body cam. All right, so I think a good point to start is the body cam. Let's go to the body cam. If you go to YouTube, and type not another boring. All right, so let's go here. If you go on YouTube and type not another boring podcast, it's going to take you to our channel. And what we've done is we've uploaded the police body cams onto the channel, and we created a playlist. So if you go here, you'll see a playlist. If you go playlist, you'll see a playlist called Police Body Cams Mustafa Al-Jazairi right there. Okay, so you click on it. Specifically, what you want to go through is Exhibit 10 and Exhibit 14. So if you scroll all the way down, each body cam is numbered as exhibit. And what you want to focus on in this podcast is Exhibit 10 and Exhibit 14. Now, those body cams are essentially one body cam. What the police department have done is they spliced this body cam into two body cams before uploading them to the server. And when you watch what's on this body cam, you realize that this body cam captures Officer Chad Mason, the officer that's handling Mustafa's dash camera on the scene. Now, what the police department have done is they took 17 minutes out of this body cam. This body cam is worn by Officer Robert Drum, the main investigator, the investigator that the police department already admitted that had falsified Mustafa's statements. This officer falsified Mustafa's statement in this whole entire case. The foundation of this case, an officer falsifies Mustafa's statements. Now, this officer is wearing a body-worn camera and captures the other officer that handles Mustafa's dash camera, Chad Mason. You find out that this body cam has 17 minutes missing from what this officer is doing to Mustafa's dash camera. Now, let's go to this body cam so that way we're all on the same page of what I'm talking about. So what you want to do is click on Exhibit 10. And in Exhibit 10, let's see if we can pull it up. All right, so I'm going through the body cams. I'm trying to get to Exhibit 10. And that's the body cam that's worn by Officer Robert Drum. That's the officer that falsified Mustafa's statements. All right, there we go. I think we're here. All right, so there we go. So this is body cam Exhibit 10. And if you're the police department that's tracking this podcast, specifically on the top right corner, if you're an agency outside the county that's investigating this case, what you want to look at is the top right corner. This body cam starts off at 1850-0400 Axon Body 3 X60878296. So that's how you can locate that body cam outside of our YouTube channel and the numbers, how we numbered it as Exhibit 10. Now, for the podcast and how you can find it on the podcast, it's Exhibit 10. Now, this body cam starts at 1850. Now, we fast forward. This is where Officer Robert Drum gets on the scene. So Officer Robert Drum gets on the scene, arrives at the scene at 1850. Now we're going to fast forward to where that body cam is cut. That body cam is cut at 19:02 and 59 seconds. Okay. Now Exhibit 14, the body cam, the other body cam, it starts at 1919. Let's go over to the other body cam. So that body cam stops at and picks up at Exhibit 14. This is Exhibit 14. That's the body cam for it. Exhibit 14. It picks up at 1919 and 38 seconds. Now, the gap between Exhibit 10 and Exhibit 14 is 17 minutes. Why did the police department cut this body cam into two separate body cams and take away 17 minutes? Now, when you find out that this body cam captures the officer that handled Mustafa's dash camera, and today we're talking about a dash camera that's cut before impact and has no audio. They took the audio away. This officer, Officer Chad Mason, takes a stand at one point and tells the presiding judge, he testifies to, that when he got on the scene, he took Mustafa's dash camera back to his vehicle, downloaded the files, put the dash camera back onto the vehicle, onto the windshield, sat on those files for 2 days. 2 days later is when he filed for a warrant. 2 days later is when he uploaded the files to the police department server. He says he violated the chain of custody. What he was supposed to do is take the dash camera to digital forensic, Kathy Zymuth, and she's the one that's supposed to copy and mirror the files in this dash camera to protect the integrity of the files. And then upload the files to the police department server, evidence.com. That didn't happen. Officer Chad Mason downloaded the files, sat on them for 2 days, got a warrant 2 days later, uploaded the files 2 days later. And today you have a dash camera that's cut and muted in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. And we're looking at a body cam that has a gap of 17 minutes missing when the officer handled this dash camera. Now, we're going to go through this body cam. We're going to go through what's going on inside the court. because the defense attorney, Brad Haywood, in a Brady motion, September 16 of this year, litigated that the Mustafa Al-Jazairi file has missing body cams. Body cams that are cut, spliced, edited, and muted before the police department uploaded them to the server. Now, the prosecutor tells you, everything I have, I gave it to the defense. So we're going to get into what the prosecutor is saying, because the prosecutor claimed that there are no missing body cams. Well, we're clearly looking at a body cam that's been spliced and cut by the police department. So let's go into the courtroom and what they're saying in court. And then we'll come back into this body cam and take a deep dive into why is it cut? Are they covering up for the officer that, is the police department covering up for the officer that cut and muted this dash camera? Now, before we go into the transcript, let's take a look at Mustafa's dash camera and how it cuts off before impact. All right, so this is the dash camera, where when you play the dash camera, you'll see that the camera facing inside the vehicle is going to cut off, while the camera facing outside is going to continue rolling. So if you slow down the dash camera, you'll see that the inside camera facing cuts off while the outside is still rolling. Now, when you measure the frames in the police department server, what you have is two separate files. One, the camera facing outside, the file for the camera facing outside, you'll see that it stops at it's 8.3, while the file for the camera facing inside the vehicle is 8.0. When you measure the frames, that's 17 frames missing from the camera facing inside the vehicle. The police department, specifically Officer Chad Mason, cut this dash camera, took 17 frames from inside the vehicle, and what he did, you'll realize that there is no audio to this dash camera. There's no audio. Now, this is the last file before the camera cuts off. That's what the police department tell you. Now, what we see here in this dash camera is that Mustafa is driving. The computer inside the vehicle show that Mustafa is driving speed limit. He's passing a vehicle in front of him. He takes the wrong lane, and then at that point, there is nowhere to go. You see here, that vehicle blocks him from going back into traffic. He ends up in oncoming traffic. And what Mustafa does, he avoids every vehicle being in that position. There's nowhere to go. You can't get back into traffic. There's a medium right in front of you. You end up in oncoming traffic. There's nowhere to go. You avoid the first vehicle, that van. He avoids that vehicle. He avoids every vehicle. And then evidence show the camera cuts off. Evidence showed that he made it all the way to the fourth lane and the SUV turned into Mustafa. Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. Now, the police department inspected Mustafa's vehicle and they found brake failure. Mustafa's foot, the computer inside the vehicle, showed that Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time.
This is the oldest strategy.
But the vehicle would not stop. The police department inspected the vehicle and they found, let's go to this body cam where the police found brake failure.
Right rear tire brake didn't engage. Right
what the police department found, they found that the front passenger caliper did not work. So imagine you're pressing the brake. Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. The front passenger brake does not work. The back passenger brake caliper does not work. So essentially, the vehicle would not stop. So we go back to the dash camera, and we're watching the last 8 seconds before the police department cut this dash camera. And what you see here is that Mustafa is trying to pass the vehicle in front of him, takes a lane, it's the wrong lane, then he finds himself in a position where that vehicle blocks him here. The computer inside the vehicle showed that he slammed on the brake. His foot is on the brake the whole entire time. There's brake failure. The vehicle would not stop. He ends up in oncoming traffic. There's nowhere to go. You can't get back into traffic. That vehicle on your right is blocking you. You end up in oncoming traffic. And what Mustafa did, he avoided every vehicle, made it to the fourth lane. Now, we go back to this dash camera. And we ask ourselves, this dash camera that's in the police department server stops before impact. It clearly, you can see that the camera facing inside the vehicle cuts off while the outside is still rolling. Now, this is one dash camera, has a lens facing outside and has a lens facing inside. A dash camera doesn't just cut on its own. Someone cut this dash camera. Someone removed the audio. Specifically, that digital forensic, Kathy Zymuth, we find in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi file, in the sealed file, that Kathy Zymuth says that this dash camera does have audio. Let's go over to Kathy Zymuth. This is Kathy Zymuth.
My name is Katie Zamus. I'm a detective in digital forensics on the Prince William County Police Department.
Now, when you look at this document says, Cassie Zymus says, and this is entered April 24, 2023, although the last several videos recorded on the device did not appear to have sound. So Kathy Zymus is telling you the last several videos didn't have audio, but the rest of the dash camera does have audio. So why is it that when you enter the server, the whole entire dash camera doesn't have audio? Wait a minute. Cassie Zymus testified to that there is no way a dash camera would have audio halfway through. It either has audio or it doesn't have audio. And then Cassie Zymus testified on the stand that she heard the audio. So where's the audio? For 2.5 years, they've been telling this community that there is no audio. And here you have digital forensic admit that the sound record feature on the device was turned on. And Cassie Zymus tells you she heard the audio. So where's the audio? That's a good question. And then when you take the whole case into context, and then you realize that Chad Mason, the officer that handled the dash camera, is telling you that I violated the chain of custody. I took the dash camera back to my car. I downloaded the files, sat on them for 2 days. They got a warrant for it 2 days later. You realize that this officer cut and muted this dash camera. Now, all over NBC4, for over 2.5 years, they've been telling us that this dash camera does not have audio.
But Al-Jazairi won't be walking, but the...
Let's see what Julie Carey on NBC4 is telling us that Commonwealth attorney says about this case. Let's see if we can pull up what NBC4 is telling us. All right, so this is MBC4. We're going to fast forward to all the way. Let's see.
Video from the vehicle.
All right.
The Commonwealth's attorney also telling me the policy violation will not impact the case, writing, "The letter has no impact on our case or the charges we brought. We were aware of the mistake that the officer made in his report and had already provided that information to the defense." Court documents filed by prosecutors say there is other evidence supporting the charges, including dash cam video from the vehicle, but there's no audio on the recording.
All right.
Claim they don't have audio of the dash camera, but here they are telling the public they were arguing. So if they don't have audio, and my client didn't say they're arguing despite the police report saying so, what's their basis? We don't know.
Weiner
So-
says his next step as
They're telling you that there's an argument inside the vehicle. They're telling you that there's no audio. And now we're finding out that the officer cut and muted this dash camera. Now, something that's really interesting about this dash camera that they've hid for 2.5 years is moments before the vehicle accident, you find out that Mustafa and Dorothy are sharing a cigarette, specifically a hemp cigarette. Let's go to moments before the accident. This is what they've hid for over 2.5 years. I remind this community, this is a sealed dash camera. If it wasn't for us entering the server and getting this dash camera, you wouldn't find out that Mustafa and Dorothy are passing back and forth a hemp cigarette. And look at the way Mustafa's girlfriend feels Mustafa's fingers when she grabs that cigarette. Now, they want to tell you that they're arguing inside the vehicle. But then moments before the vehicle accident, we find out that they're sharing a hemp cigarette. And the way Dorothy, Mustafa's girlfriend, grabs that cigarette, she feels Mustafa's fingers when she takes that cigarette. Now, they pass that cigarette back and forth 6 times. Not once, not twice, 6 times. So where is the argument inside the vehicle? In this case, what they've done is the officer, the main investigator, Robert Drum, wrote in his police report, "Mustafa, you told me you were arguing inside the vehicle." There's a recording of the conversation between Mustafa and the officer that Mustafa never said that. That officer flat out falsified Mustafa's statements. What they've done, they hid the dash camera, sealed off the dash camera, never told anybody that they're sharing a cigarette, specifically a hemp cigarette, sealed off this dash camera, and then went on and cut and muted this dash camera. Now this case is being leaked all over the internet, and we're finding out that there is no argument inside the vehicle. That Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. When there is no argument inside the vehicle. 2, Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. 3, the police department inspected Mustafa's vehicle and found brake failure. Mustafa's foot was on the brake the whole entire time. And the police department found out that the vehicle would not stop. There's brake failure. But 2.5 years ago, they buried these body cams. They buried their finding. And they went with a narrative where they falsified a whole entire case. Well, today, we're taking a deep dive into this case. And we're finding out that the police department is covering up for the officer that cut and muted Mustafa's dash camera. Really quick before we go into the courtroom and what they're saying in court during a Brady motion about the missing body cams, I want to take you into the toxicology report. This is Mustafa's toxicology report. And the toxicology report show there is no alcohol and there is no drugs. And specifically what Mustafa and Dorothy are passing back and forth inside the vehicle is specifically a hemp cigarette. This is Mustafa Al-Jazairi. This is a toxicology report. So we zoom in. Let's zoom in here. Blood alcohol non-detected. Blood alcohol non-detected. There's no alcohol in Mustafa's system. We zoom in into the THC. THC 0.0003. What they're smoking inside the vehicle is hemp. There's a difference between weed that has THC. There's a difference between hemp that has 0.0003. So what they're smoking inside the vehicle is hemp. This is a toxicology report. So we find out there's no argument inside the vehicle. They've lied about an argument inside the vehicle. We find out that this is a vehicle accident, that Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. Mustafa is not speeding. Mustafa is not under the influence. This is a vehicle accident, and that Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. Now we go back to the dash camera. The dash camera is clearly cut. They muted this dash camera. They've lied about there's no audio. Today we're finding out there is audio. Now, we go back to the dash camera itself. This dash camera is clearly cut. When you measure the frames, you find out that at 8.0, the camera facing inside the vehicle stops rolling. It cuts off while the outside is still rolling. So what they've done here is they specifically, the reason they cut 17 frames out of the vehicle, inside the vehicle, out of the dash camera, the camera facing inside the vehicle, is because they want to tell you that Mustafa did not have a facial reaction. So you take 17 frames out of the dash camera, camera facing inside the vehicle, and you want to tell me that he has no reaction to the vehicle accident. Well, let's take a deep dive and look at Mustafa's reaction. Because when we look at Mustafa's reaction right before, specifically Officer Chad Mason took 17 frames from the camera facing inside the vehicle, you see that Mustafa is panicking. Mustafa sticks his tongue inside his cheeks in panic. Mustafa's jaw is wide open. Let's take a look at Mustafa inside the vehicle. This is Mustafa. You see that he sticks his tongue inside his cheeks. His jaw is wide open. He's panicking. Now, the hypocrisy in all this is that we're sitting here litigating a dash camera that's cut by the police department. Clearly, Mustafa is reacting to a vehicle accident. Now, a Dr. Speckard came into this case, looked at this dash camera, looked at the whole entire case, and put an affidavit that Mustafa's reaction is consistent with someone reacting to a vehicle accident. This is an affidavit in Mustafa's file. We'll get into what Dr. Speckard said at another podcast, but this is an independent doctor that's testifying that what we're watching here is a person reacting to a vehicle accident. Now, you don't need Dr. Speckard to tell you that. Clearly, his jaw is wide open. He sticks his tongue inside his cheeks in panic. Clearly, he's panicking. But the problem here is that Officer Chad Mason cut this dash camera. This dash camera, the camera facing inside the vehicle, it's cut while the camera facing outside is still rolling. We're all on the same page. This camera, we're all looking at a camera facing inside, cuts off while the outside is still rolling. This doesn't happen. Someone cut this dash camera. And Officer Chad Mason tells you, I took the dash camera back to my car, violated the chain of custody, sat on it for 2 days. Well, today we have a dash camera that has no audio, has 17 frames missing from inside the vehicle, and is cut before impact. And what we're going to do, now that we have that information, We're putting this information on the table. Let's go into the courtroom. And let's see what defense attorney Brad Haywood is telling the presiding judge, Judge Carol Weimer. Because apparently we made a lot of noise. A lot of noise leaking out these body cams, or bringing up that the police department falsified the whole entire case. Now, the county, Mustafa was set to trial back in December of last year. All of a sudden, Mustafa trial gets pushed. The county assigns Mustafa a new lawyer, and his name is Brad Haywood. Now, at that point, our channel is going viral. Evidence show, since we entered and leaked out those body cams, we're leaking out those body cams, the channel start going viral. The community is shocked. It's disturbed at a fact that a county lied and falsified the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. Clearly, you cut and muted this dash camera. Clearly, you crushed and staged the vehicle. Clearly, you falsified Mustafa's statement. Clearly, you weaponized children, a 9, a 10, 14, and a 16. And it's not our word against the police department. No, I have the files in the server, and I'm leaking them through this podcast. The county is panicking. So Mustafa's trial gets pushed. The county gives Mustafa a lawyer, Brad Haywood, and they gave Mustafa just about $100,000 for this defense attorney, Brad Haywood, to hire an independent expert to reconstruct the vehicle that was blocked by Prosecutor Sami 2.5 years ago when there's a judge order. We watched the body cam where Prosecutor Sami is blocking the reconstruction of the vehicle accident. A dash camera that clear evidence show that it was cut and muted, and they have the audio. So the county gave just about $100,000 for the defense attorney, Brad Haywood, and for him to hire independent expert for the reconstruction of the vehicle and the extraction of the full dash camera with the audio. Now, the question that we're asking is, was Brad Haywood, the defense attorney, and the money pumped into this case part of the cover-up? I mean, think about what's happening here. Mustafa was set to trial back in December, and then all of a sudden, body cams are leaked out of the police department server, and the trial gets pushed. A public defense attorney from the county is given to Mustafa, and they gave Mustafa $100,000. He was already scheduled for trial. A person that's already scheduled for trial is given just about $100,000 in a public defender to litigate and find out and get to the bottom of what's going on here. The question that we ask, was this part of the cover-up? Now, when we look into what the defense attorney did, it sure sounds and look like it's to contain this case. Brad Haywood puts in a Brady motion and includes everything that we've been litigating on this platform, on this podcast. That the statement of Mustafa Al-Jazairi was falsified, that the vehicle is crushed, staged, blocked from getting reconstructed, that this dash camera is cut by the police department. And in this Brady motion, to a certain extent, he incorporated everything that we're talking about on this podcast, that the children are weaponized by the police department. Now, what's disturbing, and the reason that we say this is the county containing this case and covering up for what they've done, is because Brad Haywood goes behind closed doors and is not pursuing the missing body cams that's going to shed light and show that this police department falsified a whole entire case. Now, this is not my word against Brad Haywood. I have the order. Let's go into the order really quick. This is an order that was submitted after the Brady motion. All right. Order on defense motion for production of Brady material. Missing body cams. All right. Here, if you go specifically to page 4 out of 5. So if you go 4 out of 5, you realize that right here, request 18, defense request body-worn cameras and other recording of the crime scene processing, interaction with child witnesses, or dash cam components. Court ruling, Judge Weimer granted him the Brady motion. So the prosecutor has to give the defense attorney those body cam. Specifically, it's called crime scene processing. The body cams on the scene. The defense attorney withdrew. Wait a minute. Why would the defense attorney withdraw body cam? Tells the prosecutor, I don't need the body cams that's going to shed light on officers falsifying this case. And what you're talking about is a lot. Today, what we're going to do, we're just giving you one example into what's missing out of the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. What the police department cut, spliced, and muted before uploading to the server. What you have missing in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi file is body cams where it shows the children were weaponized by the police department. And through the case file, we narrowed it down to finding out that it was Officer Romero that weaponized the children, a 9, a 10, a 14, a 16. I mean, what's coming out of this case? The child says that Mustafa, that the child was told by investigator Romero, Javen, the 14-year-old, is told that Mustafa ran away. The investigator is telling these kids that Mustafa ran away, left their after the accident, that Mustafa ran away, left their baby sister to bleed to death. And if Mustafa didn't run away, the police could have saved their baby sister. Imagine, the police are sitting there telling children before they walk them into a forensic interview. The problem here is Mustafa was in a coma. Mustafa was helicoptered to the hospital. Those police officers, specifically investigator Romero, is weaponizing the children against Mustafa before walking them into a forensic interview. Now, that's these body cams. We have the forensic interview, and let's play it really quick. But the body cam when investigator Romero is having conversation with a 9, a 10, a 14, a 16, those body cams are not in the server. The police department omitted those body cams from being uploaded to the server. That's what Brad Haywood is telling the prosecutor, you don't have to give me. You don't have to give me body cams where children have been abused and weaponized against Mustafa. Brad Haywood is covering up for the police department. This is a forensic interview where the 14-year-old is telling the child's, I want to call her psychologist, but she tells you she's not a psychologist. Let's call her the person that's interviewing the child in a forensic interview. You'll understand what I'm talking about when you watch the full forensic interview. Here, Javen is the 14-year-old child is telling this individual that's interviewing him what the police told him to weaponize him against Mustafa. Let's take a listen to what 14-year-old Javen is saying in the forensic interview.
When he got into the car crash, the detective said he jumped out and ran, left my baby sitting there. And if he just thought to bring her to the hospital, maybe she would have made it, but she didn't because he decided to be a coward. And now she's gone. And now all I have is my 2 brothers. She was the sweetest. She would never even hurt a fly. She was citizen too. 25. And my mom's gone. Now she's gone. It's because of one man that I trusted. Because my mom kept on telling me he's a good guy. I kept on saying, okay. Alright, I told her I had my suspicions and I should have went with my gut. I knew something wasn't right. And I still believed her, and that's why they're caught today.
Javen, the 14-year-old, says, I trusted Mustafa. Mom always told me to trust Mustafa. That gives you insight into the kind of relationship Mustafa has with those children. Mustafa is a father figure in their life when their father was not there. Javen, the 14-year-old, says, I trusted Mustafa. Mom always told me to trust Mustafa. That gives you insight into the relationship that Mustafa has with his mother, Dorothy Fontaine. Mom always told her child to trust Mustafa. Now, the police, Javen says, the 14-year-old child says, that the police told him Mustafa ran away. And the police could have saved his baby sister if Mustafa didn't run away after the accident. That's what's coming out of the child. So where is the missing body cams? Where are the body cams when the investigator sat down with the children before walking them into the forensic interview? Evidence showed that the police lied to those children. Mustafa was in a coma. Mustafa was helicoptered to the hospital. But they're sitting here weaponizing these children. And in the order we read that Brad Haywood is telling the prosecutor, you don't have to give me those body cams. Now, the other body cams is when they're inspecting Mustafa's vehicle. Now, we have one body cam where they found brake failure, but there is another officer, Officer Cruz, and his body cam is missing. That's going to shed light on what is going on with Mustafa's vehicle, that when Mustafa's foot was on the brake the whole entire time, the vehicle would not stop, had brake failure. That body cam is removed by the police department, and the prosecutor blocks the reconstruction of the vehicle. I mean, when you're watching this case unravel, the fact, I mean, you don't have to know anything about this case, but finding out that a prosecutor is blocking the reconstruction. Now, let's get back to the basic. The county says this is intentional. That's what the county says. That Mustafa crashed the vehicle on purpose. The details that are coming out of this case is that this is a car accident, and Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. Now, wait a minute. Wouldn't it make sense if the prosecutor is saying Mustafa crashed the vehicle on purpose, that when we bring in an independent expert, there's a judge order to inspect the vehicle? Wouldn't it make sense that the prosecutor allows the reconstruction of the vehicle accident? I mean, wouldn't that prove her case? Instead, what's coming out of this case is that the prosecutor is blocking the reconstruction. And we have the body cam. On body cam, they did that. Now, body cams are missing. Body cam were with the children. Body cam with the vehicle inspection. Body cam specifically cut and spliced when capturing the officer on the scene that handled Mustafa's dash camera. Earlier in the podcast, we watched Exhibit 10, Body Cam Exhibit 10, and Body Cam Exhibit 14. These two body cams have been spliced by the police department into two separate body cams, and 17 frames are missing. Now, the problem here, the police department is trying to justify why the dash camera has no audio and is cut before impact. Let's take you directly into the scene and hear directly from the officer and why this dash camera has no audio and is cut before impact. Now, I remind you, this is the same officer that testified to taking the dash camera back to his vehicle and sitting on those files for 2 days before getting a warrant. An officer that violated the chain of custody. That today, we have a dash camera that's cut and is muted. Let's go into the scene through those body cams and find out what the officer is telling us. And hear from Officer Chad Mason directly. So if you go to Exhibit 10, if you go to Exhibit 14, you'll hear from Officer Chad Mason. Let's see if I can find Exhibit 14. So on your end, if you go to YouTube, Not Another Boring Podcast, and you go through a specific playlist, and specifically what you want to look for is Exhibit 14. Exhibit 14, and we'll remind everybody, if you're looking for this body cam outside the YouTube channel, if you're with Prince William County Police Department that is tracking what we're talking about, if you're an agency from outside the county looking into investigating this case, you look at the top right corner and you'll look at Bodycam, specifically X60878296, and you start off this Bodycam at 19 and 39 seconds. -0400. So this body cam, this is on our end, it's Exhibit 14, and it starts off at 1919. We fast forward to timestamp 1932 and 29 seconds. And we hear directly from Officer Chad Mason trying to explain to us in his own word why this dash camera has no audio, it's cut before impact, and it has 17 frames missing from inside the vehicle. This is the same officer that took the stand, and he said, I violated the chain of custody. I took the dash camera, sat on it for 2 days. 2 days later, I got a warrant for this dash camera. So let's hear from Officer Chad Mason directly in what Chad Mason is telling us.
You got thing?
No, there's this first rotate up there.
How about cameras? We got any cameras? So they have a dash camera on the. We got
car.
Target.
Yeah,
Target's
a dash cam.
Target's going to pick up big time.
Is it still running?
Can't. No, the cable's broke. So I mean, I don't know if it was broke before or broke now, but it's broke. I am starving like mom. I'll get you some food in a minute here.
I just need water. Just water.
That I have a case. I have a whole case of water. Both nights. As soon as I go walk at WDS to fucking eat, both nights.
I mean, this is the most disturbing scene in this whole entire case. First of all, you're talking about a dash camera, the most important piece of evidence in this whole entire case that's going to show you what happened and how this vehicle accident happened. And all of a sudden, you're talking about you're hungry. You change the conversation as if this piece of evidence is not even relevant to the whole entire case. I mean, we're going to watch this body cam again. And for the love of God, someone tell me this is normal. And wait a minute, you're talking about the wire is broke? It's been 2.5 years and the police department have not come up with the wire yet. Where's the wire? Because you can inspect this wire and find out how it was cut. Because if you're talking about a situation where the officer cut the wire to justify him cutting the dash camera, we can get to the bottom of that. You can hire an independent expert, look at the wire. Was the wire spliced with a knife? Was the wire pulled? How was the wire broken? And for the love of God, why are you changing the conversation to you being hungry? As of the dash camera, it's not even relevant to this whole entire case. Let's watch that body cam one more time.
Turn down. You got thing?
No, there's this first rotate up there.
How about cameras? We got any cameras? So they have a dash camera on the. We got Target.
Target's
a dash cam. Target's going to pick up big time.
Is it still running?
Can't. No, the cable's broke. So I mean, I don't know if it was broke before or broke now, but it's broke. I am starving like mom. I'll get you some food in a minute here.
I just need water. Just water.
That I have a case. I have a whole case of water. Both nights. As soon as I go walk at WDS to fucking eat, both nights. I was just turning on.
Now, what's disturbing about this whole entire scene here? This is at 19:32 and 29 seconds. 19:32 and 29 seconds. And they're pretending that this is their first time learning about a dash camera inside the vehicle. I mean, the officer that's wearing this body cam is Officer Robert Drum, the same officer that falsified Mustafa's statements. This is the same officer that's asking Officer Chad Mason about the dash camera, pretending that this is his first time knowing there's a dash camera. Well, let's rewind this dash camera a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. This is 1932, and Officer Robert Drum is pretending that he has no idea, and this is his first time finding out there is a dash camera. Well, hold on now. Let's rewind the dash camera just a little bit. All the way back to 19:19 and 38 seconds. And let's see that Robert Drum didn't know about the dash camera. Let's watch what's going on at 19:19. And this is, take a step back. This is the body cam that's been spliced into two body cams. It's one body cam. It's Exhibit 10 and Exhibit 14. This is Exhibit 14 that starts at 19:19, where there is 17 minutes missing from Exhibit 10. Because this is Exhibit 10, and this is where Robert Drum, the officer, shows up on scene. Gonna fast forward. He shows up on scene. Okay? So this body cam starts off at 1850. And we fast forward this body cam to 1902 when Robert Drum makes contact with Officer Chad Mason. And all of a sudden, this body cam is cut. And you can't say that the officer turned off the body cam. No. Robert Drum didn't cut this body cam because you can clearly see his finger when it picks up on Exhibit 14. He's not clicking anything on the body cam. The body cam just starts. Clearly show that someone spliced 17 minutes out of that body cam into two separate body cam. So,
first guy on scene. Is that the DC cop I saw driving away? Just a little bit. All right. So, long story short.
Here, you can see his finger. Here, he mutes the body cam. He didn't cut off the body cam. And the reason I tell you he muted and he didn't turn off the body cam is because when this body cam picks up at Exhibit 14, you clearly see, you realize that his finger is nowhere next to the body cam. The body cam just starts rolling. Look. And it starts at 19, 19, and 41 seconds. His fingers, his hands, and nowhere next to that body cam. That body cam just continues rolling. What the police department did, Robert Drum mutes the body cam, and then the police department cuts off 17 minutes from this body cam. Splicing Robert Drum's body cam into two separate body cams, which is Exhibit 10 and Exhibit 14. So it starts off, I mean, what are we watching here? Officer Chad Mason is inside Mustafa's vehicle. And look at the way he looks at Robert Drum. As of, he's telling him, dude, fuck off. Get out of here. You don't see what I'm doing inside the vehicle to Mustafa's dash camera? I mean, we're going to rewind and zoom in on what Chad Mason is doing. I mean, Robert Drum is moving his shoulder with his body cam away from Chad Mason, avoiding to capture Chad Mason anymore. I mean, let's rewind real quick. This is Exhibit 14, and it picks up at 19, 19, and 41 seconds. The police department spliced 17. There is a 17-minute gap between Exhibit 10 and Exhibit 14. And immediately what we see is Officer Chad Mason inside Mustafa's vehicle. So, Robert Drum wants to tell us that at 1932, That's when he found out about the body cam, the dash camera inside Mustafa's vehicle. Well, here at 1920, you're making contact with the officer inside Mustafa's vehicle, and clearly you see there's a dash camera. That dash camera is right there. It's on the windshield. So, the question is, what did Robert Drum do with Mustafa's wire? And clearly you can tell that Officer Chad Mason is telling Officer Robert Drum, dude, get the fuck out of here. You don't see what I'm doing to this dash camera? You don't see that I'm cutting the wire? I mean, look at the look on his face. Clearly he's telling him, dude, fuck off. You and your body cam, fuck off. And we go back to Officer Robert Drum. Clearly, this guy cut the wire. Clearly, Officer Chad Mason cut the wire. And clearly, Robert Drum, it's not his first time knowing about there is a dash camera inside the car at 1932. Here we're at 1920. At 1919, he made contact with Officer Chad Mason, and clearly they're both dealing with a dash camera inside Mustafa's vehicle. The most crucial piece of evidence that's going to shed light on this whole entire case. So, you have Chad Mason inside Mustafa's vehicle telling Robert Drum to go away with his body cam. The police department is covering up for this officer by chopping up 17 minutes from this body cam. And the real question is, here we clearly see that Officer Chad Mason is wearing a body-worn camera. Where is his body cam? Because his body cam is not in the police department server. The police department omitted to upload that into the server. So, you have a situation where the officer that handled Mustafa's dash camera, his body cam is not there. You have a situation where the officer that captured the officer that's handling Mustafa's dash camera, 17 minutes are missing. Here, this is Exhibit 10. The first body cam, it cuts off at 19:02 and 59 seconds. You see that time frame right there? 19:02 and 59 seconds. It cuts off, and then it picks up at 19:19 and 38 seconds. When you count the minutes of what Prince William County Police Department spliced out of this body cam into two separate body cams, it's 17 minutes. So, where are the 17 minutes that are missing? And clearly, this shows that the police department is covering up for the officer that cut and muted Mustafa's dash camera and cut the wire to say that because of the wire, this dash camera is cut. As if that makes any kind of sense. So we go back to Officer Chad Mason at 1932 and what he said when asked about the dash camera. And the two things that you want to look forward is his reaction normal? Does it make sense? And two, is Robert Drum, the officer that's wearing the body-worn camera, is that his first time knowing about the dash camera inside Mustafa's car? Clearly, we just saw him interact with Chad Mason earlier in the body cam, so he knows about the dash camera, but here he's pretending that's his first time knowing about a dash camera. Let's watch that one more time before we go into what they're saying in court.
You got to think.
No, there's this first rotate up there.
How about cameras? We got any cameras?
So they have a dash camera on the
We got
car.
Target.
Yeah,
Target's
a dash cam.
Target's going to pick up big time.
Is it still running?
I can't. No, the cable's broke. So, I don't know if it was broke before or broke now, but it's broke. I am starving like mom.
I'll get you some food in a minute here.
I just need water.
Huh?
Just water.
That I have a case. I have a whole case of water.
Both nights. It sounds like I'm walking at WDX to fucking eat. Both nights.
I was just turning on.
Now, one other thing that we found out is that the officer with the hat, immediately when he's asked about the dash camera in Mustafa's car, that body cam is cut. Let's go into Exhibit 11. So Exhibit 11, if you fast forward to, let's see if we can find it. There we go. At 1932, if you fast forward to 1932, this is the body cam worn by the officer that's wearing a hat. And that's when it captures when he says, "I'm hungry," the wire is cut. You fast forward to 1932 and 33 seconds. There we go. All right, so let's watch it here. This is from the body cam worn by the officer that was wearing a hat. And you see that immediately after Officer Chad Mason began talking about the body cam is cut. The minute that he started talking about the body cam and he says, changes the conversation to "I'm hungry," he cuts off that body cam. All right. So we go back to the dash camera and how the dash camera cuts off before impact. Okay. The dash camera is cut. Clearly is cut before impact, and you're talking about body cams that are missing. See how it cuts off inside the vehicle while the camera facing outside the vehicle is still rolling. So Officer Chad Mason clearly cut this dash camera and he muted it. And to cover up for this officer, the police department is cutting, splicing body cams, muting body cams before uploading them to the server to protect this officer that cut and muted Mustafa's dash camera. Now, one interesting thing that is coming out of court, and we're going to go into what they're saying in court, is that Brad Haywood, in a Brady motion, was granted the whole entire Brady motion, except for one thing. And I found it interesting that he didn't fight for it. He didn't push back on it. Is the communication of Prosecutor Sarah Sami with those officers, the communication of Sarah Sami with the individuals that are alleged witnesses. Now, to find out if you have a situation where the police department is uploading to protect these officers, you're talking about a situation where the police department is cutting and muting body cams before uploading to the server, that the prosecutor doesn't know that the police department is doing this. You go into the communication. Is the prosecutor in communication with those officers, in cahoots with these officers? She knows about the police officers cutting and muting these dash camera. The way you verify that is to get her communication. Now, by law, Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood, was entitled to the communication. But Judge Carol Weimer, to protect this prosecutor, denied the release of the communication. By law, Brady versus Maryland, specifically if you have a case where there is bias inserted into the investigation, you have to release the communication. Specifically when you find evidence that the police department falsified the case, you have to release the communication. Specifically, if you have a prosecutor that has a history for the past 2.5 years that's been lying to protect these officers, you have to release the communication. Brady versus Maryland entitles the defense to have the communication. But the presiding judge denied the communication. Specifically, presiding judge, Judge Carol Weimer, denied the communication to be released. And Brad Haywood didn't push back on it. I find that disturbing And it shows what this defense attorney really doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. I mean, he's brought in to contain this case. The more you find out what is coming out of this case and Brad Haywood's defense attorney, Brad Haywood, involvement in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case, you find out that the county brought this defense attorney only to patch up this case for the county. How do you explain that he's granted the Brady motions only to go behind closed doors and tell the prosecutor, you don't have to give me the missing body cams? That's working with the prosecutor. All right, so let's dive into the transcript and what's being said in court about the missing body cams. And what you want to look for, what you want to look for is three things. So far, we've answered the first question. Is the police department cutting and splicing body cam before uploading them to the server? Absolutely. We're looking at those body cams cut before being uploaded to the server. The second question you want to ask, does the prosecutor know about the body cams that are missing? I mean, the prosecutor has those body cams in the server. I mean, you're telling me that we're doing more investigation into the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case more than the prosecutor herself? I mean, those body cams are in the server. That's where I got them from. Evidence.com, the police department server. Whatever I have access to, the prosecutor has access to. And if we can see that these body cams are cut and muted, the prosecutor is watching that these body cams have been cut and muted by the police department. And the real question is, as a prosecutor, why have you not asked the police department for the missing body cams? Unless you're in cahoots with this police department. You're protecting that police department and what they've done in falsifying this case. And the way we can get to the bottom of it is by releasing your communication. As a matter of fact, we don't need your communication to find out that you know about the missing body cams, and the fact that you're not asking for the body cams, missing body cams, you're in cahoots with them to protect that police department. I found it interesting when I was in court. Judge Carol Weimer would tell Prosecutor Sarah Sami, orders her to go in and ask the police department for the missing body cams. And she's sitting there telling him, Your Honor, I'll go ahead and do that, but this is all the body cams that exist. But I'll go ahead and ask the police department if there is any missing body cams. And then right behind her is sitting Internal Affairs, Captain Doodley, with Prince William County Police Department Internal Affairs. And after court, she's sitting there with him, telling him that there are no missing body cams. And I gave everything to the defense attorney. Wait a minute. You were just told by the presiding judge that you were going to ask Internal Affairs. And what she actually did is she's reassuring by her telling him there are no more missing body cams. By her telling Internal Affairs, she's reassuring him that she's not interested in the missing body cams. But, I'll tell you, she's comfortable because her communications are not released. But your communication, Prosecutor Sarah Sami and Prosecutor Stephanie Buck, is going to be released to the defense. And we're going to get to the bottom of what you've done in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. Well, you're going to find out that this prosecutor is in cahoots with the officers that falsified this case. Why do you think she was shaking in court? I mean, she was terrified when the conversation came up that she has to release her communication. And she tells the judge, it's dangerous, Your Honor. It's dangerous to release my communication. I mean, as a prosecutor, why would it be dangerous to release your communication unless you know the danger is that you are going to jail? I mean, you're talking about being in cahoots with officers that falsified this case. You're talking about officers that cut and muted this dash camera, weaponized a 9, a 10, a 14, crushed and staged Mustafa's vehicle. You're talking about fake witnesses that have entered this case. What communication are we going to find that you're telling the presiding judge it's dangerous for you to release it to the defense attorney. I'm not telling you to release it to me. It's being released to the defense attorney, but you are terrified and you tell the judge that it's dangerous because you know the danger is you going to jail. But we'll get to the bottom of it. Let's take a deep dive into the transcript and what is being said in court. All right. So on October 3rd, 2025, a Brady motion was litigated in court by defense attorney Brad Haywood, prosecutor Sarah Sami, prosecutor Stephanie Buck, and the presiding judge is Judge Carol Weimer. So let's hear what they're talking about here. This is item 13 in the Brady. So item 13. All right. Brad Haywood says, Judge, sorry, I meant to add. Let's make it a little bit bigger. I meant to add something on 11B, 1 through 3. Did the court make a ruling on that? Judge Weimer says, on 11B, Brad Haywood says, the defense attorney says, yes, 1 through 3. All right. Judge Weimer says the information that is expected or in actual testimony of any prosecution witness is inconsistent. Well, certainly they have that or is refuted by or fails to corroborate other information known to the Commonwealth, as well as evidence regarding the circumstances of witness statement that indicates a lessened degree of reliability, whether or not the Commonwealth intend to call them to testify. All right, so here they're talking about the individuals that are being used as witnesses. I'm not sure that you're asking for, quite frankly. I mean, you need to explain a little more. I mean, it's inconsistent statement and inconsistent statement of people that aren't going to be witnesses. All right, so Judge Weimer is asking Brad Haywood. Brad Haywood, the defense attorney, tells Judge Weimer, and this is page 20 on the Brady motion on October 3rd, 2025. All right, so Brad Haywood, the defense attorney, tells Judge Weimer, actually, yes, because a lot of them were. You know, they're part of the investigation, and whether or not they're going to be called as witnesses. I'm sure the ones that actually gave inconsistent statement may very well not be called as witnesses because they made inconsistent statement. But that doesn't mean the Commonwealth themselves didn't use that information in conducting their investigation or developing probable cause or in providing that testimony or that information before the grand jury, or that those inconsistent statements, if a person who is spreading honestly misinformation about the factual allegation, which happened a lot, I think even probably in the Commonwealth estimation that happened, those people would be potentially somebody that the defense would want to call to. They would be adverse witnesses, and we would be able to call them to show how the investigation was corrupted, how the police were biased or didn't conduct a full and thorough investigation, or how the Commonwealth is simply not telling the jury the entire universe of the facts in the case. What you have going on here is what Brad Haywood is telling the court, Judge Carol Weimer, that you have individuals that entered this case, allowed by the police department, allowed by the prosecutor to testify to a story. Now, when you open those body cams, the prosecutor is in trouble because every single person that's being used as a witness is telling you, I was not there, I didn't see anything. Now, the police department, I mean, think about what's going on here. For 2.5 years, the prosecutor tells the courts that she has witnesses, and they sealed off this case. Now that I've leaked, now that I've entered the server, I've leaked the body cams, you see that every individual that's being used by the prosecution is an individual that says, I didn't see anything. Now, the question is, the police department allowed this to go on. I mean, the police department, no, these are not witnesses, but they allowed them to come in, and the prosecution sealed off those body cams. And now you have evidence that show none of these people that you have as witnesses are actually telling you anything. They're literally telling you, we were not there. I find it really interesting in a motion, now that these body cams are being leaked, these body cams were sealed, hidden from Mustafa for over 2.5 years. Mustafa doesn't know that you have a Commonwealth attorney, a prosecutor Sarah Sami, and prosecutor Stephanie Buck are using fake witnesses. Now it's leaked. Now the whole community knows that the prosecutor is using fake witnesses. I find it really interesting and disturbing and funny at the same time. Prosecutor Sarah Sami and prosecutor Stephanie Buck wrote a whole entire motion telling you that witness one, the ex-boyfriend Glenn Ford, ran away from the state. And he says he doesn't want to testify. He no longer wants to testify. Wait a minute. And prosecutor Sarah Sami tells the judge, Your Honor, because of this podcast, that this individual is terrified to come forward. Are we talking about the same individual that was online just the other day threatening, and I have the audio, threatening, saying that I have 2 other people with me. Glenn Ford, the ex-boyfriend, the one that she's talking about, her witness, says, I have 2 other people with me. I'm watching your podcast van, the van that you're podcasting out of, and we're about to come up on your van and physically harm you. That's your witness. Your witness is threatening me for exposing what they're doing in this case. That's your witness. Your witness is threatening me. So to put out a motion, I can't wait for this motion to be litigated. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that I'm going to be filing for this against this motion. I have evidence that prosecutor Sarah Sami thinks that she can just lie. I mean, the days of you proffering and lying, those days are far gone, ma'am. Prosecutor Sarah Sami, Stephanie Buck, you can't lie about this case anymore. You put this motion. I can't wait for this motion to expose what kind of prosecutor you are in this case. You're telling the court that Glenn Ford is terrified? Lady, he's threatening us. He's terrified, and he ran away because his body cam hit the internet. He literally says, I didn't see anything. He literally says, Mustafa doesn't even know me. That's witness 1. Witness 2, Kylie Clapp. Kylie Clapp, prosecutor Sarah Sami says, and she's putting it in a motion, Your Honor, because of this podcast, Kylie Clapp is so terrified that she had an abortion. She chose to have an abortion and not have a baby, and is no longer willing to come forward and testify because she's terrified of this podcast. Wait a minute. Last time I checked, Kylie Clapp came out at night while I was protesting and asked to sit down with the family. I have over an hour-long video of Kylie Clapp, your witness, that you're litigating, is terrified, sat down with us, with the family, for over an hour at night. And the next day, she's asking to have breakfast with the mother. Wait a minute. You want to tell me that she's terrified? She's terrified because her body cam is on the internet, and it clearly showed that she lied. You can no longer use her. You know that. She's going to get impeached. You put her on the stand, and she's going to get impeached with her own body cam. She literally says, I wasn't there. I didn't see anything. But you want to lie and deceive the courts. You think that just by putting in a motion that you're going to get to say whatever you want. Lady, that body cam, that hour-long video is going to be there. As a matter of fact, Kylie Clapp is all over the internet threatening us. What are you talking about, lady? So we have beautiful motions that are coming up, and these motions are going to be really interesting. So that's what Brad Haywood is talking about here. Witnesses that lied, and clearly they've lied, and now they can't be used by the prosecution, but we're still going to use them as adverse witnesses because they influence the grand jury, they influence this case, And a whole entire investigation was built on a false testimony. The police department knew that. The prosecutor knew that. They sealed off this case. But now that these body cams are all over the internet, they can't hide that the prosecution and the police department used fake witnesses. All right, so we continue. Judge Weimer tells Brad Haywood, so what you're saying in terms of inconsistencies is inconsistent with their prior statement or inconsistent with the Commonwealth theory of the case. Brad Haywood, the defense attorney, says, well, I actually took the Commonwealth's position not to be objecting to the characterization of the thing that are listed as Brady that they would have to disclose, but rather that they disclose everything they have. I don't doubt that they have done that. But the issue, again, is whether they actually have everything that the Prince William County Police Department has. And that has been a problem already. Now, listen to what Brad Haywood is telling the presiding judge, Judge Carol Weimer. He's telling him, the prosecutor says she gave me everything. Hey, I don't doubt that she gave me everything. But what I'm telling you, presiding Judge Weimer, that the police department didn't upload everything. And he's going to go on and say it's the obligation of the prosecutor, knowing that there are missing body cams, to investigate and get the rest of the body cams. Let's continue reading. All right, so Brad Haywood continues, and that has been a problem today. We have an instance where Investigator Robert Drum, that's the investigator that we looked at with Bodycam 10, that has his body cam cut, that captured Officer Chad Mason, the one that cut and muted this dash camera. All right. So Brad Haywood says, Investigator Drum put false statements in a police report. And my understanding is, and the Commonwealth can correct me if I'm wrong, but his body cam video, which would have memorialized that conversation, was not given to them until after the discrepancy was pointed out. Mr. Al-Jazairi family did have a recording, and that's why they were able to file a complaint about that. You also have, for example, the Commonwealth have asserted that the body cam policy in Prince William County, in effect, at the time, allowed police officers to mute their cameras or turn them off in the way that they did in this case. And it doesn't, at that time, there was mandatory recording. And then there was a list of exceptions, just like there are now. And none of those exceptions applied in this case. So you already have, and you can go down the list. I mean, there are other ways. Investigator Drum wouldn't let our crash scene investigator touch the vehicle. Brad Haywood is talking about the vehicle being blocked from beginning reconstructed. In that video, he said, Prosecutor Sarah Sami, Robert Drum says, Prosecutor Sarah Sami said, you cannot reconstruct the vehicle. All right, so Brad Haywood here says, Investigator Drum wouldn't let our crash scene investigator touch the vehicle. When I spoke to Mr. Keene, the person who was doing that investigation for the defense attorney at the time, he described that as bizarre, and he's never encountered that before, where an investigator would not let an independent investigation take place. So you have somebody who I think, okay, so three things. Brad Haywood is talking about that Drum falsified Mustafa's statements, that Drum blocked reconstruction, and he's talking about that the prosecutor, and what she said about body cam, that the police officer can turn off their body cam, that's false. There is no policy that officer can just cut off their body cam, mute their body cam. The prosecutor just lied about that. They're, by law, not allowed to turn off and mute their body cam. As a matter of fact, forget that. The police department has spliced these body cams. Clearly, what we're watching with the two body cams, where it captured investigator Chad Mason handling Mustafa's dash camera, is cut, is spliced by the police department before uploaded to the police department server. So we're gonna go into, so this is page 23. Okay, we're gonna watch what NBC4 said on the news about what Brad Haywood is talking about. Brad Haywood is telling the presiding judge, Your Honor, the main investigator, Robert Drum, falsified Mustafa's statements. And there's a recording of the conversation that Mustafa never said what this investigator is claiming that Mustafa said. And this is the foundation of the case, because Robert Drum, the investigator, said, you told me you were arguing inside the vehicle. You listen to the audio, Mustafa never said that. Let's listen to what NBC4 is talking about.
For tonight, there are new questions being raised in the case of a man charged with murder for a crash that killed his girlfriend and her 5-year-old daughter last year.
They come after Prince William's police chief ruled the investigating officer had violated department policy. Northern Virginia Bureau Chief Julie Carey spoke to the driver's defense attorney about why he thinks the finding casts doubt on the case.
Mustafa Al-Jazairi has been behind bars for almost a year now, accused of intentionally driving his car into oncoming traffic, a crash that killed Dorothy Fontaine and her 5-year-old daughter, Empress. Initially charged with manslaughter, the charges were later upgraded to second-degree murder. Al-Jazairi's family insists the crash was an accident. The defendant's brothers filed an internal affairs complaint with the Prince William County Police, alleging the investigating officer, quote, falsified a portion of his police report to say that the couple was arguing before the crash. Al-Jazairi's brother provided a taped version of a phone conversation that contradicted portions of the written police report. Last month, the Al-Jazairi family received this brief letter from Prince William Police Chief Peter Newsham reading, the investigation revealed that Master Police Officer Drum violated department policy, therefore appropriate corrective action has been taken. Al-Jazairi hired a new defense attorney, Blake Weiner, who tells me he specializes in police misconduct cases.
The police report talks about my client saying, I know what happened. He didn't say that. The police report also says that they were arguing in the car. He didn't say that. These are not only these material facts and material misrepresentations, they're the foundation of the government's case.
Weiner says without the incriminating statement, there's no proof Al-Jazairi crashed the car intentionally.
All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take you directly into the conversation between investigator Robert Drum and Mustafa. And what this investigator did, he said, you, Mustafa, told me that you were arguing with your girlfriend inside the vehicle. So we're going to take a look at the report and what Robert Drum put in that report. And then we're going to listen to what Mustafa actually said to the investigator. What the investigator actually said to Mustafa. We're going to hear that conversation. And together, we're going to look at that this investigator falsified Mustafa's statements. So let's go to the police report. All right, so here, when we pulled that up, we're going to zoom in.
So that's the dash cam.
We're going to zoom in right here on page 11 out of 41. So 11 out of 41. This report says Mustafa stated the argument in the vehicle. This officer is claiming that Mustafa told him that he was arguing inside the vehicle. Mustafa never said that. So let's listen to the conversation and see if Mustafa said what Officer Robert Drum put in his police report. This is the foundation of the whole entire case. Let's listen to
the car. Is that yours?
Yes, sir.
Why do you have a dash cam? Is that for like DoorDash stuff?
Yeah, I DoorDash. Like in case like an accident or anything happens, or like anything like that.
Do you know how the dash cam works?
I just plug it in and it turns on. Like,
do you know how long the videos? Do you know how long the videos are saved for?
I really don't know. I think like maybe 2 days, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you DoorDash last?
DoorDash. Let's see. What did I DoorDash? I don't know.
Okay. So I don't remember anything about the crash.
I have DoorDash recently, by the way, but I don't remember. Okay. I don't remember when. Like what it was like. Like I.
Let me ask you this question. So, you have a mom, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You ever been in trouble with your mom? Your mom asked you a question that you knew your mom already knew the answer to, and she was waiting to see if you were going to tell the truth. So I'm there right now.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot about you I already know, and again, I want to believe you're a good human being, and I think a mistake was made. Have you ever tried to scare your girlfriend by driving into oncoming traffic before? I
would never in my life, or in any shape, way, or form, ever put like the person that I love or I care about or any human being or even anything in harm's way. Like anything. I would never ever do that. And this person means the world to me.
Okay, Moses. There is a dash cam video pointing at the front of the car and inside the car. The dash cam video shows you arguing with your girlfriend.
I wasn't arguing. I don't remember arguing.
Okay. All right. Well, having a discussion.
Yes, sir.
And she was getting upset, and it just shows you turning into the left-hand lane, no skid marks, no braking, and then just driving into oncoming traffic. I'm trying to figure out why.
I don't know. Why would I do that? Like I would never.
I don't know. All I know is people tell me what you're telling me.
I would never ever do that. Like, okay, I'll tell you right now. Like, do you know what happened to me? Like, you know how bad that sounds. Like I just lost I don't know how to put it in words, but I lost someone very dear to me. And the daughter, like the girl, like she was very special to me. I really cared for every single person that was like right there within my circle.
Home videos show that Mustafa loves his family. There's a Google Nest video inside the apartment that shows Mustafa loves his family. There's a Google Nest video system inside the apartment. So this police department for 2.5 years, they're pretending not to look at the home videos. They falsified Mustafa's statements. I mean, here, we just listened to the conversation. This investigator wrote, Mustafa stated the argument in the vehicle. Mustafa never said that. This investigator falsified Mustafa's statement, went on, crushed Mustafa's vehicle. This is what they've done to Mustafa's car. This is Mustafa's car at the... Let's pull up the... This is Mustafa's car at the scene after the accident. And this is what they've done to the vehicle inside the police department. So not only did they falsify Mustafa's statement, they crushed and staged Mustafa's vehicle. They cut and mute Mustafa's dash camera. So you're talking about a situation where Mustafa's statements are falsified. I mean, this is the vehicle. How did the vehicle go from this after the accident to this? Clearly, they're staging the vehicle. They falsify Mustafa's statement. They crush the vehicle, stage the vehicle. They take the dash camera, cut and mute the dash camera. They weaponized the children, a 9, a 10, and a 14. I mean, walking into the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case, if you don't know anything about this case and you find out the police department is, I mean, you're telling us that he crashed the vehicle on purpose. Why cut and mute this dash camera as a police department? Why crush and stage the vehicle? Why weaponize the children? He either did this intentionally or didn't do it intentionally. But you're sitting there cutting and manipulating the evidence. And the evidence that are coming out, this is a car accident. And you, the police department, are staging evidence and cutting and playing around with the evidence. Anybody that's looking at this case is walking away from watching this and is telling you, as a police department, if you had a case, you wouldn't sit there and cut and mute a dash camera. You wouldn't sit there and stage a vehicle. You wouldn't sit there and weaponize children. You wouldn't have to falsify his statements. This is a body cam. So Brad Haywood goes in. So he talks about Robert Drum falsifying Mustafa's statements. And then he goes on and he tells presiding judge, we read in the Brady motion, he tells the presiding judge that the independent expert was blocked from reconstructing the vehicle. And specifically, that same officer, Robert Drum, is seen on body cam to block the reconstruction. And he tells the independent expert that prosecutor Sami said, you can't reconstruct it. Let's watch that body cam.
Which one is it?
What's that?
Which one?
This is the independent expert, Stephen Keene. So that right there is Stephen Keene. We paid $5,000 to have an independent expert go in and reconstruct the vehicle 2.5 years ago. And there's a judge order. And what you'll see on this body cam is that independent expert is being blocked. As a matter of fact, what we found out, the Faro scan, there is a $500,000 equipment that the county gives these officers, Robert Drum, to when an accident happened, they have a machine that's going to scan the vehicle, scan the other vehicles, scan the road, and tell you exactly how the accident happened. What we found out is that scan has been removed from Mustafa's case. They removed it. And what they've done is crush the vehicle, stage the vehicle. So when we bring in our independent expert, he's not allowed to touch the vehicle. He's only allowed to scan the vehicle. Now, you're scanning a crushed and staged vehicle. Your scan is no longer going to read anything. And that's what they wanted. They wanted this independent expert to scan the vehicle, and they crushed it in certain places to make it look like a head-on collision. Let's watch the body cam and watch what they're doing at the site and how they're blocking the reconstruction. And watch for Robert Drum telling this independent expert that prosecutor Sami said so. And the question that you want to ask yourself, why is the prosecutor blocking the reconstruction? Shouldn't the prosecutor want the reconstruction to prove her case? I mean, she's sitting there saying that this is intentional, that Mustafa crashed the vehicle on purpose. Wouldn't it help her case if an independent expert reconstruct this whole accident, this whole scene? Why is a guy that's sitting in solitary confinement hiring an independent expert, reconstructing the vehicle, screaming to have his vehicle reconstructed, and a prosecutor that's saying this is intentional, blocking the reconstruction? Something is not adding up here. It's supposed to be the other way around. I mean, if Mustafa crashed the vehicle on purpose, he wouldn't want an independent expert to reconstruct the whole scene. Something is not adding up. And it sure show that this police department know that this is a car accident, and they're blocking the evidence from coming out. Let's watch this body cam.
It's in the box.
Which one is it?
What's that?
Which one is
It's in the box. Per my conversation with Sarah, So this is the first time I've ever done this in 18 years. She said we can pull it out for you.
Yeah.
You can look at it. She doesn't want anybody touching it.
Okay. Like touching it, I mean, can I?
Like if you want to take pictures and all that, but if anything needs to be manipulated, we'll do it for you for chain of custody issues.
Perfect. Sure. Okay.
But yeah, you're more than welcome to like poke around.
Yeah.
But nothing gets moved, changed, or anything like that. So.
Cool. Did y'all already pull the module?
The ATM? Yeah, we've got it.
Okay.
All right. So this independent expert is being blocked from reconstructing the vehicle. So let's go back to what Brad Haywood is telling the courts. All right, so we go back to page 23. All right. All right, so you already, I'm going to read it just to recap what Brad Haywood is telling the court, so that way we understand what Brad, now that we watch those body cams and we watch those relevant videos, we're going to understand what Brad Haywood is telling the presiding judge, Judge Carol Weimer. Defense attorney Brad Haywood tells the presiding judge, Judge Carol Weimer, so you can go down the list. I mean, there are other ways. Investigator Drum wouldn't let our crash investigator touch the vehicle. When I spoke to Mr. Keene, okay, let me read it from page 21. All right. I don't doubt that they have done that, but the issue again is whether they actually have everything that the Prince William County Police Department has. And that has been a problem already. We have issues, for instance, where Investigator Drum put false statement in a police report. And my understanding is, and the Commonwealth can correct me if I'm wrong, but his body cam video, which would have memorialized that conversation, was not given to them until after the discrepancy was pointed out. Mr. Al-Jazairi family did not have a recording, and that's where they were able to file a complaint. The officer, when he falsified Mustafa's statement, that body cam is not on the server. We record, my other brother, Muhammad, have recorded that conversation, and that's how we can prove that the officer falsified Mustafa's statement. So the question is, where is that body cam? To this day, that body cam is there, but it's not on the server. You also have, for example, the Commonwealth have asserted that the body cam policy in Prince William County, and in fact, at the time, allowed police officers to mute their cameras or turn them off in a way that they did in this case, and it doesn't. And that time there was mandatory recording, and then there was a list of exceptions, just like there are now, and none of those exceptions applied in this case. Okay, so the prosecutor is lying about officer being able to mute and turn off their body cam. This is not a policy; it's illegal. As a matter of fact, the police department is cutting body cams before uploading them to the server. So you already have, and you can go down the list. I mean, there are other ways. Investigator Drum wouldn't let our crash scene investigator touch the vehicle. When I spoke with Mr. Keene, the person who was doing that investigation for the defense attorney at that time, he described that as bizarre as he's never encountered that before, where an investigator would not let an independent investigation take place. So you can have somebody who I think, okay, and then Judge Weimer says, but that's been resolved, hasn't it? How has it been resolved? Judge Weimer is telling him that's been resolved. The vehicle was not reconstructed yet. 2.5 years. As a presiding judge, you're watching the prosecutor block the reconstruction. The police officer blocked the reconstruction. As a presiding judge, that's supposed to be impartial. How are you allowing a police department and a prosecutor to block a reconstruction that there is a judge order to reconstruct the vehicle? According to Judge Weimer, that's okay. Judge Weimer says, but that's been resolved, hasn't it? No, it hasn't. The county is giving money hiring another independent expert to go in and do that again. How is it has been resolved? To this day, Mustafa sits in solitary confinement. Mustafa stood up and asked Judge Weimer. He said, Judge, you ordered the reconstruction. You said by the end of September, the reconstruction is supposed to happen. My lawyer is not coming up with it. The county gave him money. Where is the reconstruction of my vehicle? It was blocked 2.5 years ago, and it's still being blocked today. Judge Weimer doesn't compel Mustafa's defense attorney to come up with the results. He's not asking for the money. He's not asking for the results. And if I didn't know anybody, Judge Weimer is in cahoots with blocking the reconstruction. All right, so Judge Weimer said, but that has been resolved, hasn't it? Defense attorney says, well, that's part has in that we can send somebody else back. Okay, so Brad Haywood says, yeah, we can bring another reconstructionist and then do it again. But no, it hasn't been resolved. Mr. Haywood says, the defense attorney tells Judge Weimer, what I think is evidence of is that you have two investigators who really, from Jump Street, had laser focus to the exclusion of anybody else, laser focus on my client. And it seems that they want him to be convicted so badly that they are willing a lot of time to not necessarily turn everything over. So if there were bench notes, if there were other recording, if there were other memoranda that simply weren't given to the Commonwealth attorney, they should be given. And I think that probably should be made clear to the police. Maybe the Commonwealth satisfies its obligation simply by emailing or calling the investigators and say, I just want to make sure you guys haven't held anything back. Whether it's your detective notes, whether it's photographs, whether it's recording, unedited recording, maybe that suffices. But this is a concern that we've had for reviewing the discovery. And I just want to ensure that the Commonwealth has done a thorough follow-up so that nothing is withheld. We clearly know that body cams are being spliced by the police department before uploaded to the server. What are you talking about? We have evidence that the police department is cutting these body cams, is withheld in these body cams. We have evidence that the prosecutor already knows about it. I mean, we're watching the same thing the prosecutor is watching. And if we're asking these questions, the question is, why is the prosecutor not asking these questions? Unless they already know in their cahoots with the police department to hide the body cam that show this case is falsified. All right, so Brad Haywood tells the courts that officers have a bias. Okay, we're going to stop here, page 24, and we'll come back to page 24. Now, Prince William County Police Department officers, the moment they showed up on scene, they condemned Mustafa guilty. We have body cams where Mustafa is laying in front of his vehicle in and out of consciousness. An officer already condemned him guilty. Let's go to Officer Casey Fine and what Officer Casey Fine is telling the main investigator when he showed up on scene.
45, 20, that'll be 3. I'm already here. And then Mason and Wilhelm are on their way.
All right, Joe.
Take pictures while you do anything else.
No, we'll figure out where the bodies are going in a minute. Witnesses, anybody say what happened?
Yeah, there's a lady over here in the black. She saw everything.
Okay.
I believe. This car is the at fault. This is the driver of that vehicle. Okay.
Thank you.
He said, this car is at fault. You haven't reconstructed the vehicle accident. You haven't looked at the computer inside the vehicle. You haven't looked at the dash camera. But you're telling the main investigator, this guy is at fault. This guy, the one that's in front of his vehicle and in out of consciousness and goes into a coma. This guy is at fault. Immediately, you're ruled off that he's at fault.
So at fault. so far. Crossed over, what, oncoming traffic?
I'm not 100% sure. Knowing him, though, it's probably drug related.
Okay. If that's the case, I want somebody to go get a blood draw. If he's driving?
They said he's driving, but I've had contact with him before, not driving, but he was out of it.
See if somebody can do a blood draw on him. Because apparently the kid and mom already did.
Okay. License for that city.
Fine.
I mean, listen to what he says. He said, I've had contact with him. Not driving, but he's out of it. Wait a minute. Are you telling us that if we look into what you're saying here on Bodycam, we're not going to find any police report? 2.5 years. A whole entire discovery. No police report of Casey Fine interacting with Mustafa. Doesn't exist. Wait a minute. You condemned Mustafa guilty, inserting a bias saying that he's on drugs. Well, let's take a look at Mustafa's toxicology report and see, is Mustafa on drugs? This is Mustafa's toxicology report, and it shows no alcohol and no drugs. You clearly lied to the main investigator. When the main investigator got on scene, you inserted a bias. This is a toxicology report. And it shows no alcohol and no drugs. Investigator Casey Fine, Officer Casey Fine lied to Investigator Robert Drum, inserting a bias into this whole entire case, and immediately steered the investigation into where now there's a bias. Now they're doing a blood draw. Now they're condemning him guilty. And Casey Fine is going around telling officers, and officers are telling bystanders, a mother and her baby died. The guy that is, don't worry, don't look at the guy, don't look at him in and out of consciousness and going into a coma. Don't look at that guy that's on the floor. That guy killed a mother and a baby. He's on drugs. You want to tell me that they didn't insert a bias into this whole entire investigation? They haven't looked at the computer inside the car. They haven't looked at the dash camera. They haven't reconstructed the scene. But you've inserted a bias. And you find out, I mean, you want to talk about racism? You find it in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. A white woman and her baby died. A Mustafa lived. They don't care that this is a car accident. They don't care that Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. They don't care that he did everything he can to avoid an accident. And you take it further, you find out that this Mustafa was suing the police. Mustafa had a lawsuit against the police. $500,000 settlement that was being litigated between Mustafa's lawyer and the police department. Mustafa was suing the police for $500,000. There was $500,000 lawsuit that they were supposed to agree on. And now Mustafa is in a vehicle accident. And now the police department are taking advantage of the vehicle accident. I mean, 2.5 years, he's in solitary confinement. The case is sealed. The case is falsified. This is the guy that's been suing the police. We go back to what Brad Haywood is telling us about this case. The defense attorney is telling the judge. Let's go back to what Brad Haywood is telling the presiding judge. Before we go in, this is one more body cam where an officer comes up to the main investigator and he tells him, I've been briefed about him. You've been briefed about Mustafa? Oh, this is the guy that's suing you for $500,000. Let's watch that body cam.
Hey, I talked to Grantham on the other one, and he said that it looked like. So we're good. We're good.
Sorry.
Everything's
We'll call you next time.
Hey, can I be honest with you? I don't even know that cat. I do now. I remember now that it was brought up.
I didn't even know this cat. I didn't even know this cat but I do now. We've been briefed about him. Interesting. You've been briefed about a Mustafa that's suing the police. How dare a Mustafa in this county sue the police? You have to put him back into his place. And you're going to find out the moment that he's in a vehicle accident, while he's in a coma, you're going to take advantage of it. You seal off this case. You falsify a whole entire case, and you're comfortable. Well, now the community is waking up to a reality that you, Prince William County, allowing certain police officers to do whatever they want. Allowing a prosecutor, Sarah Sami, and prosecutor Stephanie Buck to do whatever they want to protect those officers. Internal Affairs was supposed to be an agency within an agency. Is sitting there splicing and cutting body cams to protect those officers. All right, we go back to the transcript. And we are on page 24. All right, so page 24. All right, so hey, we're going to read it again. Defense attorney Haywood says, what I think is evidence of this is that you have two investigators who really from the jump start street had laser focus to the exclusion of anybody else, lesser focus on my client. And it seemed that they want him to be convicted so badly that they were willing a lot of time to not necessarily turn everything over. So if there were bench notes, if there were other recording, if there were other memoranda that simply weren't given to the Commonwealth attorney, that should be given. And I think that probably should be clear to the police. Maybe the Commonwealth satisfies its obligation simply by emailing or calling the investigators and say, I just want to make sure you guys haven't held anything back, whether it's your detective notes, whether it's photographs, whether it's recording, unedited recording, maybe that suffices. But this is a concern that we've had from reviewing the discovery, and I just want to ensure that the Commonwealth attorney has done a thorough follow-up so that nothing is withheld. All right, so Judge Weimer says, well, Miss Sami, he's asking prosecutor Sarah Sami. Judge Weimer is, well, Miss Sami, you agree that anything in the custody of the police is in the custody of the Commonwealth. And just for everybody that's tuning in, Judge Carol Weimer used to be a Prince William County police officer. So he knows and sees what's going on here. So he's not naive to what they're doing here. One thing you're going to walk away with is that Judge Weimer is allowing and entertaining a prosecutor that's protecting officers that falsified this case. I mean, the question is Judge Carol Weimer impartial, or is he just protecting his fellow police officers? I mean, he used to be a Prince William County police officer, and here you have officers that have falsified this case, that are caught falsifying this case. So what does he do? Is he entertaining the idea that the prosecutor is protecting these police officers? Absolutely. Let's continue reading. Well, Ms. Sami, you agree that anything in the custody of the police is in the custody of the Commonwealth. Sarah Sami says, yes, sir, I do. Judge Weimer says, all right. And that is your obligation to attempt to get that information. All right. So he's telling her, you have to get that information. Sarah Sami says, yes, sir. The court says, and to try to get that he's asking for. Yes, sir. Judge Weimer says, okay. And you're telling the court that has been done. I mean, what a joke. She's telling him that has been done. And he's telling her, you're telling the court it has been done? Sami says, yes, sir. The court says, all right. And what efforts have been made to prompt the police to turn over what is appropriate? Okay, that's a really good question. Judge Weimer now is asking her, you're telling me that you did that. You're telling me that you gave the defense everything. You're telling me that you checked with the police department and found out if there are things that are missing. So now Judge Weimer is asking her, he's telling her, well, what did you do? What effort did you do to find out if there is missing body cams? All right. So Judge Weimer says, and what effort has been made to prompt the police to turn over what is appropriate? Sarah Sami says, Your Honor, and this is how I handle all my cases. All right, so let's see how Sarah Sami handles all her cases. All right, she's telling us, this is how I handle all my cases. I hope that's not how you handle all your fucking cases. Sarah Sami says, Your Honor, based on this, and this is how I handle all my cases. Once I get started working, I ensure at all time I ask if I have everything that I need. In this case, everything is on P1, which is the management system for the police department, in evidence.com. Based on my knowledge, there is no outstanding things that the police department have not provided to me for me to provide the defense. Really, Prosecutor Sarah Sami? Evidence.com, you say. I've entered the server, and there are body cams that we're both looking at where 17 minute is missing from a body cam, spliced into two separate body cam by the police department when they upload it to the server. And you want to tell the presiding judge that you looked at it and nothing, they gave you everything? Well, clearly there are 17 minutes from the two body cams that we just looked at. There are body cams from the forensic interview when the police sat down with the children. That's not in the server. There are body cam when they inspected Mustafa's vehicle. That's not in the server. And other line of body cams that's clearly missing from the server that the police department spliced and cut before uploading to the server. So we're both looking at the same thing, and clearly you're lying to the presiding judge. Judge Weimer tells Prosecutor Sarah Sami, but I guess my question is, have you, it sounds like you have, but I want to make sure that I ask this question. Have you alerted the police that it's important that they turn over everything to you with regard to this case? All right, so this is a very specific question that Judge Weimer is asking her. Judge Weimer is putting on the record that he's asking the prosecutor, have you alerted the police that there are missing body cams, that you need those body cams? Have you done that? Sarah Sami says, not verbatim. Sarah Sami tells the judge, not verbatim, Your Honor. Like in the court just stated. But if the court would like, I'm happy to send an email requesting everything and asking if everything has been provided. Not verbatim. So Judge Weimer tells you, have you alerted the police department and told him that there are missing body cams, that you need the missing body cam? She says, not verbatim, Your Honor. What do you mean, not verbatim? You either did or you didn't. And in this case, based on what you're saying no, you didn't. And the question is, why? Clearly, we're looking at the same file in evidence.com in the police department server. We're looking at the same file that's being cut by the police department. So when you say not verbatim, the question is, the only conclusion is, you know about officers cutting body cams before uploading them to the server. You know about that. But instead, for over 2.5 years, you're looking the other way to protect these officers lying in this case. Sarah Sami says, not verbatim like the court just stated, but if the court would like, I'm happy to send an email. So you haven't even fucking sent an email. Interesting. Everything, and asking if everything has been provided. Judge Weimer says, well, that's your obligation. Now, whether you do it or not it's not going to specifically, I'm not going to specifically order that. I think the Supreme Court has already done that. And if it's discovered that there are things, there are going to be consequences to the case. Listen to what Judge Weimer is telling prosecutor Sarah Sami. He's telling her, I'm not gonna order you to contact the police department. I'm not gonna order you to go after the police body cams. I'm gonna tell you that the Supreme Court already ruled on it. And if later in this case it's found out that you never pursued missing body cams, there's gonna be consequences in this case. Consequences as, lady, you're going to jail. I mean, where is Sarah Sami and prosecutor Stephanie Buck so terrified from? They keep talking about this podcast. They keep talking about the brother entering the server. I mean, if you have nothing to hide, why are you so worried about a podcast? Why are you so worried about a YouTube channel? But clearly, we're finding out that the police department falsified the case and a prosecutor is protecting the police officers. Clear evidence that the police department cut and spliced and muted body cams before uploading them to the server. And specifically in this case, 17 minutes is missing to show what Officer Chad Mason did to Mustafa's dash camera. The most important piece of evidence in this whole entire case. Where is the body cam of Officer Chad Mason? I mean, he's clearly wearing a body cam. So when Prosecutor Sarah Sami tells the judge, no, Your Honor, everything, they gave me everything. Clearly, we're looking at a body cam of the officer that handled Mustafa's dash camera. Where is that body cam? That's nowhere in the server. And Sarah Sami wants to tell Judge Weimer, they gave me everything. Really? They gave you everything? What about that body cam? What about the officer that handled the dash camera that today testified to, I took the dash camera back to my vehicle, sat on the files for 2 days, then got a warrant for it 2 days later, broke the chain of custody. Well, today your dash camera has no audio and is cut before impact, and it has 17 frames missing from the inside of the vehicle. And that body cam of the officer that handled Mustafa's dash camera is nowhere in the server. And Sarah Sami tells the judge that we have everything, Your Honor. We gave the defense everything. The police department has nothing else to give me. What are you talking about, lady? You're clearly lying to the presiding judge. All right. So let's go back to page, let's see, where are we? We're on page 24. All right. All right, so Judge Weimer reminds prosecutor Sarah Sami and tells her, well, that's your obligation. Whether you do or not, it's not going to specifically order. I'm not going to specifically order that. I think the Supreme Court already done that. But if it's discovered that there are things, there's going to be consequences in this case. All right. Sarah Sami says, yes, sir. The court says, all right. Does that satisfy? Defense attorney Brad Haywood says, yes. The court, Judge Weimer says, your position. Defense attorney says, yes. The court says, all right. All right. And then goes on and says, how about number 13 or number 12? Let's see. All right, so we covered the transcript. We heard what prosecutor Sarah Sami is saying in court and what her position on the missing body cams. She tells Judge Weimer and she tells Brad Haywood, that's all I have. That's all the police department has. Brad Haywood is asking for the missing body cam. The problem here is Judge Weimer ordered the prosecutor to come out with the body cams. And here Brad Haywood, in this document, this is the Brady order, where Brad Haywood goes behind closed doors on page 4 out of 5, tells the prosecutor, you see the court ruling? Granted. Processing of the scene. These are the missing body cams. Request 18, defense requests body-worn cameras and other recordings of the crime scene, processing interactions with child witnesses or dash cam component. Court ruling, granted. Judge Weimer granted the defense to have those body cams. The prosecutor has to give the defense those body cams. Well, here, the defense withdraw the body cams. He tells the prosecutor behind closed doors, don't worry about the body cams. That's going to shed light on this whole entire case being falsified. Don't worry about giving me those 17 missing that captures Chad Mason cutting and muting Mustafa's dash camera. Don't worry about giving me the body cams. The body cam of Chad Mason, the body cam that Chad Mason is wearing when he handled Mustafa's dash camera. Don't worry about giving me that body cam. Don't worry about giving me the body cam. Don't worry about giving me the body cam when the police weaponized and abused a 9, a 10, a 14, a 16 before they walked him into a forensic interview. Don't worry about giving me the body cam when they inspected Mustafa's vehicle. Don't worry about giving me any of the body cams that's going to show what the police department has done in this case. And the question is that we asked in the beginning of this podcast, is defense attorney Brad Haywood compromised? Absolutely. Defense attorney Brad Haywood is absolutely compromised. I mean, when you put in a show, I mean, what you did in the Brady motion is a show. And I call it a show, it's because behind closed doors, you're agreeing to something else. You're agreeing to not pursuing the body cams. I mean, take Brad Haywood, defense attorney Brad Haywood, and ask Brad Haywood, what has he done in this case, in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case? I mean, he sat on Mustafa's case for a whole entire year. Mustafa was scheduled for trial back in December of last year. And all of a sudden, we make a lot of noise. I release body cams that show, it's no longer my word against the police department. No, I'm releasing body cams that show the police department falsified the whole entire case. All of a sudden, Mustafa is given Brad Haywood. The county gives a defense attorney to Mustafa. Brad Haywood is assigned to Mustafa's case. Brad Haywood is given $100,000 to hire independent experts, to litigate the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case, to get to the bottom of what the police department did. And what did Brad Haywood do? He files a Brady motion, and he incorporates everything that went out to the community. Everything that we made noise about, he puts it in the Brady motion. And if you were in court, you would say, this defense attorney is honestly fighting for his client. But when you read the order and you find out that behind closed doors, everything that he was given, he's telling the prosecutor, don't worry about giving me those body cams. He put on a show. He put on a show in front of this community and is telling this community that we are addressing these issues. But behind closed doors, he's working with the prosecutor, telling her, don't worry about giving me the body cams. I mean, this defense attorney, Brad Haywood, went as far as took the money that the county gave him to hire an independent expert. He gave it to the prosecutor. You're going to give money that is allocated for your independent experts to the prosecutor? The prosecutor that you just got done litigating in a Brady motion that is hiding body cams, using officers that have falsified your case, you're going to give the money to that prosecutor. As a matter of fact, went as far as started attacking his own experts to protect what this prosecutor is doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazairi case. Now, I want to thank everybody for being here. I think we answered the 3 questions that we started this podcast with. Is there evidence that the police department cut, spliced, edited, and muted body cams before uploading them to the server? Clearly, Exhibit 10 and Exhibit 14 shows that. Those body cams clearly show missing 17 minutes, specifically with the officer that handled the dash camera. Is the prosecutor know about the missing body cams and what the police department is doing in these body cams before uploading them to the server? Of course, obviously. They have the same file. We're looking at the same body cams. And you're telling me for 2.5 years, prosecutors are sitting on this case looking at these body cams and they don't know that these body cams are spliced, cut, and edited conveniently to hide what these officers have done in this case? Clearly, the prosecutor are in cahoots with the police department. I don't need the communication that she has with the officer to know that she's in cahoots. Clearly, it shows that this prosecutor Stephanie Buck, and prosecutor Sarah Sami are in cahoots with the police department, cutting, editing, splicing, muting body cams before uploading them into the server. The third question is Brad Haywood, the defense attorney that was assigned to Mustafa's case, is he in cahoots? Is he patching up a case for the police department? Is he protecting the prosecutors that are using officers that falsified this case? I think we've knocked that question out of the park. Clearly, this defense attorney is in cahoots with the county and is protecting those police officers, is protecting those officers in this case. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa through the police body cam. Brad Haywood, you are under the microscope.
If any of that is posted anywhere on the internet, we're going to have problems. Whatever copies have been made of that, those need to be destroyed.
Okay.
Okay? If they get disclosed, that is going to put me in a situation where I will have to withdraw from the case.
Okay.
If you disclose that information in any way, all of it needs to be destroyed now. But if you disclose it in any way, it's going to put me in a position where I will have to withdraw from the case. If you all choose to go on the internet and try to publicize this stuff, that's going to create real problems.
Okay.
You can't do it, is what I'm telling you. You cannot do it. I will have to move to withdraw from the case.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So make sure everybody's aware of that. Okay. If any of that is posted anywhere on the internet, we're going to have problems. Whatever copies have been made of that, those need to be destroyed.
Okay.
Okay. If they get disclosed, that is going to put me in a situation where I will have to withdraw from the case.
Okay.
All right.